unsung BT supporter is an ordinary man or woman who does social media. They probably joined Facebook as a way of keeping in touch with friends or being a bit silly with selfies. But that changed all of a sudden, for social media found a new expression of purpose: propaganda. Gradually, some of Mr. and Mrs. Public became aware that there were lies creeping onto their screens. A world they did not recognize was dangled in front of them with promises to make things better. This was a puzzle, since most did not feel that they were that badly done to. Sure, things could be better, but that required tweaking, not the smashing of the country to start again, to break up everything their ancestors had built for a leap of faith into the unknown on the word of a man whom their grandfathers might have fought against. The lies were fairly blatant and easy to debunk, but some believed them, and it looked as if a majority were going to swallow them whole for a while. It appeared that England had stolen Scotland's oil, that the NHS was to be abolished, that Scotland subsidized England, that the lights in England would go off without Scottish power, that they were a morally superior race, that Scotland could be a low-tax and high-services economy, and so on without end, it seemed. The people knew these were lies, and they began to fight back. They put their heads above the parapet to contradict the lies, to find the liars had prepared well. They were abused, manipulated, told to be quiet, mocked at by people who scorned their intelligence and thought they had a monopoly on truth, and battered them to make them quiet. Vile language, sneers and swearing, perversions of truth and blatant falsehoods were churned out in an unending torrent to make them keep their mouths shut. But they were not quiet. They fought back. They realized that a sort of war was going on, a cyber war, and that unless they did something, then their way of life and that of their children and grandchildren was under threat, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. They're sustained in part by folklore, the tradition and the history of Britain, but they're an undemonstrative lot. They don't consider themselves to be heroes. There's a job of work to be done, and they're doing it as best they can. They don't know themselves how long they can stand up to it, because it's a strain, and it takes time to answer the same attacks and questions over and over again. But they know that if they stop, then the liars might win. I know something about these no supporters. They know that they're out there on their own to start with, but they band together in groups to resist the well-organized and pre-existing codders of their fanatical enemies. Most of them expect little help from the poets and no effective defense by word of mouth from most of the media. These indignant men with tired eyes who are fighting nationalists for hours on unmoderated sites, and the women who tackle the hardest of the foe in their lairs on Twitter, the ex-policeman who stands guard over the girl who gets into difficulty on the Better Together forum and floors the numpty, abusing her with his arguments. These are the heroes of this war. And it is a war, a cyber war, and the scale of it is so great that it is not easy to report, whilst people in the rest of the United Kingdom slumber unaware of it. I went into a bank the other day to inquire if I should consider moving my money to the south, and the clerk said, "Why, no, sir, I do not think that necessary." When I asked him why, he told me the bank had been there for 150 years and planned on being there for another 150. As I walked back to my apartment, I passed under a setting sun through the local park. Someone had mown, "Vote no," into the grass. Such is the spirit of these free peoples. The threat will be beaten back. There is considerable confidence in that. And in the peace which follows, there will be change. And the people will cope with that. Indeed, welcome it. The strength of them is that they are not afraid of a changing union, and they shall prevail.